Hello there, dear viewer. It's New Year's Eve, so I want to wish you a happy new year. And I wish you all the best in 2025. I think it's going to be a good year. But before we look towards next year, let's look back at 2024. And specifically, I want to talk about the best 4K releases of the year. Of course, by the best, I mean my favourites. And there's a whole host of great films here to talk about, so let's get on with it. I have to give a big shout out to The Silence of the Lambs on 4K from Arrow Video. This was an excellent release. I did not have the previously available Kino Lorber 4K, but I do have the old Criterion Blu-ray, and this is better in basically every regard. And specifically for UK collectors, this film was only available on a much older Blu-ray disc, which looked pretty bad. So to get this on 4K from Arrow Video was a big thing for collectors. I think it's one of the best thrillers ever made. Of course, it won tons of awards, and it's a firm favourite of many, many people out there. And it looks beautiful, sounds beautiful on the 4K. So definitely one of my favourites of the year. Another favourite of mine that came to the 4K format is American Pie. I have huge nostalgia for this, watching it growing up. And 88 Films did a fantastic job with the 4K release. They did a limited edition box, and there's some great special features on the included discs, including some great conversations with the cinematographer and the composer of the film. And the film itself looks and sounds excellent. You may not have a particular attachment to this film, but for me, it was one of the most memorable 4K watches of the year. And 88 Films have been doing a great job with the 4K format. Not only this, but I have a few recent releases like Eyeball, which is one of my favourite of their Italian collection that they've done. And then they also have From Beyond, the H.P. Lovecraft Stuart Gordon film. I mention these two just because they're on my desk right now. I watched them very recently. But yes, 88 Films doing a great job on Blu-ray and 4K. Can't wait to see what they do next year. A much taller release here, I have Stop Making Sense, the 4K edition from A24. This is the brilliant Talking Heads concert film shot by Jonathan Demme, and it's one of the most energizing and just engaging concert films, music documentaries ever made. And the restoration as part of the 40th anniversary of the film looks beautiful on this disc, and I love the packaging. I think A24 did a great job with this release. Certainly one of the best Criterion Collection 4K releases of the year is John Sayles' Lone Star. This got a release in the UK and the US, and it's fantastic. The film itself is about this community who go through a period of upheaval when some disturbing things are brought to light about the history of people in the community and how it affects their lives in the present. It's a stunning ensemble film, and it looks great on the 4K. Criterion did an excellent job, and this was one of my favourite from them this year. Another incredible looking 4K disc was The Wages of Fear, the 4K release from BFI. This is a beautiful looking presentation of this classic film from Henri-Georges Clouzot. It's one of the most suspenseful films ever made, a firm favourite of mine. And just recently Criterion announced they're doing a version of this in the new year. So I imagine that's going to look pretty similar to this, but BFI did a great job with this with the Dolby Vision HDR, which the Criterion disc is not going to have, so that's an area for some discussion, and some great special features rounded out the package. I loved this release. Now for something very fresh in my mind, because this is a very recent release, it's the Felday 4K disc from Deaf Crocodile. This is only their second 4K disc that they've ever done, and it is a superb release. What might look like a cute animation film for kids about a bunch of cats is actually a disturbing, grisly, adult detective noir story about these bunch of cats and this disturbance in their community. I really have to state this is not a film for children, because there are some quite grisly, violent, gory things going on in this film. Quite disturbing to be watching cats doing these kinds of things. But the film is excellent, a real introduction for me. I'd never even heard of this film before I talked to Dennis and Craig from the label earlier this year, and I've been so happy watching it on this. Deaf Crocodile always provide great special features for their releases, and this year they've been doing these deluxe rigid limited edition boxes, which I've been absolutely loving, that come with a thick booklet. This has some great writings on the film and some conceptual art for all of the different cats in the film. So I loved this as an overall addition to the package. And on the disc you have some great interviews hosted by Dennis from the label and a brilliant audio commentary as well. So I absolutely loved this 4K release of Felday. Another firm favourite of mine from 2024 was Vinegar Syndrome's release of Walter Hill's Southern Comfort. This was a huge surprise for me. I absolutely loved both the physical box here, but also the disc itself, the presentation of the film, the special features. Everything about this release was practically perfect. It has this magnetic clasp where this folds out and you can pull out the slip cover and the booklet, and it's just a beautiful package. I have this on display on my shelves over there. The film itself is one of Walter Hill's masterpieces, if you ask me, about this group of young soldiers who go into the Louisiana swamps on this training exercise. But after they disturb some of the locals, it very quickly gets very real, very scary, and it very much is made to mirror what went on in the Vietnam War. So it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking and just so thrilling, suspenseful, and it looked beautiful on the 4K. In third place, and this is probably cheating a bit, but I'm going to include the entire Columbia Classics Volume 5 box set. I had such a great time watching all of the films in this set, and it includes some firm favourites of mine, such as The Age of Innocence from Martin Scorsese, and the Sidney Pollack film Tootsie, and who can forget On the Waterfront, which is just an absolute classic of Hollywood cinema. I was trying to pick one of these films to include on this list, but I've ended up just including them all here, because Sony really are one of the best in the game from the major studios putting out 4K discs. Very rarely would they have a disaster with a 4K disc, which not as much can be said about some other studios. So I always have quite good faith when Sony decide to put out a box set like this or their individual 4K titles, and they did an excellent job with this set, so I was very happy to get this one this year. I have two more 4K releases from 2024 that I would like to highlight as being not just some of the best of this year, but some of the best presentations that I've seen yet on the 4K format. And this next one I'm about to talk about, I imagine will be the very favourite release of many people this year, although I have one more that I prefer over this one. It is The Hitcher from Second Sight Films, released on 4K in this limited edition box set, but you can get it on a standard disc as well, I believe. Second Sight have done an incredible job with this, and this was a long time coming because they announced it, I don't know when, it feels like forever ago, but because they were doing their own work on the film and they wanted to take, the time to give it the care and consideration that it needed, well, the end result speaks for itself. The film itself is a cult classic starring Rutger Hauer, a thrilling, suspenseful, cat and mouse chase kind of film, which ultimately ends in this climactic confrontation, a film that perhaps not everyone will know or will say as one of the greatest films of all time. However, it has grown in appreciation so much over the years, and I think in particular with the great work that Second Sight Films have done, it's certainly grown in my own appreciation, and I think they made a fantastic box with so much in here. You get the multiple books, you get all of the great stuff on the discs as well, and a beautiful piece of work just to display on the shelf. It's a stunning looking box set. So certainly one of my favourites of the year and one of my favourites of the past few years. And then we come to what I am quite comfortable in calling my favourite 4K release of 2024. It is this, The Straight Story, the film from David Lynch, released by Studio Canal on a 4K disc. And the results are stunning. And this was a film that had struggled on home video for a while. It never got a good Blu-ray release anywhere, and the Blu-ray releases that had come out were using a very old master that was probably from the times of DVD, so it needed some real help. And given the recent restoration that it had that we see on this disc, it looks amazing. As you can see, this is the French release because unfortunately it's only available in France, Germany, and perhaps Japan. I can't actually remember, but definitely France and Germany from Studio Canal. No UK or US release yet, but perhaps that's on the horizon. I kind of suspect that Criterion are going to be looking at adding this to the collection. They've had some negotiations with Studio Canal over the past few years and have released a number of their titles on 4K. So given their history with David Lynch, this could be one that we'd see get a Criterion release next year. But for now, the Studio Canal disc is one of my favourites. In fact, it is my very favourite 4K release of the year. It's a beautiful film, my favourite David Lynch film, and it just looks stunning on the disc. So happy with the results. The Dolby Vision HDR, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So that was a look at my top 4K releases of 2024. But what do you think I missed off this list? I had a real tough time narrowing down this list because I think in 2024 we had more 4K releases than ever, given all of the boutique Blu-ray labels that have started releasing 4K. We also had some major duds on 4K this year, some releases that I think really did not look good due to how they were restored. But those were, very infrequent. Thankfully, most 4K releases this year have been very good indeed, but the ones I selected for this video were my personal favourites. Before I close out the video, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been watching the channel this year and watching all of my videos, leaving nice comments. I do really appreciate all of the nice comments. I see every single one of them, even if I don't get to reply to each one because of time and whatnot. But it really helps, it really spurs me on to keep going, making videos like this. And I think in 2025, we're going to have a very good year indeed. Click the video that's presented on screen right now if you want to watch more from me, get some more reviews and recommendations. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.